Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're taking a look at the future of Swedish research and innovation.
It's really an exciting time for this.
It is, and we're using a recent government proposition as our roadmap to sort of guide us.
Okay.
Sweden's been a global leader in innovation, we all know that, for years. But things are changing pretty rapidly. New challenges are popping up, new opportunities are emerging.
Right.
So how is Sweden planning on responding to this new environment?
Well, that's what we're going to find out today.
Exactly. We're going to uncover how Sweden aims to stay ahead in this global technology race. We're going to talk about that.
It is a race.
It is a race. We're going to talk about the balance between free, curiosity-driven research and targeted funding for societal challenges.
Right.
How Sweden is boosting its research infrastructure, which I'm super excited to talk about, and how they're planning on attracting and retaining top global talent.
Yes.
What jumped out at me first was this statistic about research investment. Sweden invests a lot in R&D. They exceed the EU's target of 3% of GDP.
Wow.
Pretty impressive, but other countries are catching up.
That's right.
Belgium is now on par with Sweden, and Finland, Iceland, and Germany are all increasing their investments.
Yeah.
Can Sweden maintain its lead in this environment?
That is the question.
So the proposition breaks down R&D funding and shows that 74% of it comes from businesses,
Cool.
22% from higher education institutions, and the remaining 4% from other sectors.
Okay.
It seems like there's a heavy reliance on the private sector to drive innovation.
Yes, which is a very interesting observation.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if there's enough emphasis on public funding,
Right.
especially for research that might not have immediate commercial applications, but could lead to those big groundbreaking discoveries.
Absolutely.
The proposition highlights a potentially even bigger concern,
Oh,
that despite this high overall investment, Sweden's research output seems to be losing some of its punch.
really?
Yeah, they point to a decline in Sweden's share of highly cited publications,
I see.
compared to countries like Denmark, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. This is a pretty strong indicator that maybe something needs to shift.
Yeah, you don't want to fall behind.
Right.
Not at all.
So they're losing ground in terms of high impact research. So what's the solution?
Yeah.
More money.
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
The proposition emphasizes quality over quantity.
Oh, okay.
They stress the need to prioritize excellence and make sure that research funding is allocated strategically. It's not just about doing more research.
Right.
It's about doing better, more impactful research.
Makes sense. But how do you define and measure excellence in research?
Right.
And is there a risk of sort of stifling creativity
Yeah, that's a good question.
if you're too focused on specific outcomes?
Definitely a risk.
Yeah.
So the proposition highlights this principle of Forskningsfrihet.
Forskningsfrihet.
Forskningsfrihet,
Okay.
which means research freedom. This basically means giving researchers the autonomy to choose their own research problems,
Oh, okay.
decide on their methods, and have control over how they publish their findings.
So it's about striking that balance, right?
Yeah.
Encouraging researchers to pursue those ambitious goals, but also giving them the freedom to kind of explore and experiment.
Right, right.
But how does that actually work in practice?
So that is a good question.
Like if you're a researcher and you have a groundbreaking idea that might be considered risky, how do you actually get funding in a system that prioritizes excellence?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is tough.
But one of the things that the proposition suggests is that not all research needs to be conducted everywhere.
Okay.
This hints at a move towards specialization, where different universities and research institutions might focus on specific areas where they can truly excel.
So instead of every university trying to be a jack of all trades, they become more like these specialized hubs,
Exactly.
each contributing their unique expertise to the national research landscape.
Exactly. I like that. Specialized hubs.
Yeah, it's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah.
But doesn't that create winners and losers?
Right.
What happens to those universities that don't become the place for a specific field?
Exactly.
It's a really good question.
It is.
So, I mean, I guess it's a trade-off.
Right.
The potential for greater focus and impact. But then you also have the risk of a more fragmented research landscape.
Right. Less diverse, potentially.
Less diverse. It'll be interesting to see how they navigate that tension.
Yes, for sure.
But this is where the investment in research infrastructure comes in.
Ah, yes. This is the fun stuff.
This is the fun part. I've been looking forward to this. This is what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
The proposition really emphasizes the importance of reinforcing infrastructure,
Okay.
having the right tools and facilities to support this cutting-edge research. They highlight national initiatives like SciLife Lab,
Yeah.
a center for molecular biosciences, and world-leading facilities like MAX4 and ESS, which focus on synchrotron radiation and neutron scattering, respectively.
Okay, so those are getting pretty specific.
They are. And to be honest, they're a little over my head. Can you break those down for me? What kind of research happens at these places?
Yeah.
And why is it so important?
Yeah. So SciLife Lab, for instance, is all about understanding the building blocks of life.
Okay,
DNA, proteins, cells, and how they all work together.
got it.
This is essential for things like developing new drugs, personalized medicine, even tackling global challenges like antibiotic resistance.
Okay, so big, important issues.
Big issues.
Okay, what about MAX4 and ESS? What makes them so special?
So these are large-scale research facilities that use incredibly powerful beams of light or neutrons to study the structure of materials at an atomic level.
So like giant microscopes that can see individual atoms?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Wild.
And the insights from these facilities can lead to all sorts of breakthroughs in all sorts of fields, from developing new materials for energy storage to understanding the mechanisms of disease.
It sounds like Sweden is really pulling out all the stops when it comes to research infrastructure.
They are.
But I'm guessing this doesn't come cheap.
You are correct.
Right.
It is very, very expensive.
So building and maintaining this kind of infrastructure, it takes a lot of investment.
Yeah, sustained investment.
But they're arguing that it's necessary
yes, they are.
if Sweden wants to remain competitive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want to play the game, you got to have the tools.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of competition, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about this global technology race.
Okay.
The proposition acknowledges that this is a big part of the picture.
It is a big part.
They recognize that the world is changing, things are moving fast,
That's right.
and there's this growing geopolitical competition in the realm of technology. It's not just about scientific advancement anymore.
No.
It's about national security,
Right.
economic power,
Mm-hmm.
global influence.
Exactly. It's a whole different game now.
So it's high stakes.
Very high stakes.
And Sweden wants to be a player.
They do.
They're not just competing against their European neighbors either.
Yeah.
They're pointing to China as this major force to be reckoned with.
Right.
China has invested massively in R&D and is now leading in a staggering 57 out of 64 key technology fields.
Wow. 57 out of 64.
It's a pretty dominant position, so how is Sweden going to compete with that?
That is the question.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to explore next.
All right, so stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
So we were just talking about how China is really pushing to become a major player in the technology world.
Yeah, they're not messing around.
No, they're not. And it's a good reminder that when it comes to innovation, talent is key. So how does Sweden plan to attract and retain the best and the brightest minds in this global marketplace?
Well, the proposition makes it clear that attracting global talent is a top priority for Sweden. But it also reveals some surprising insights about where Sweden currently stands. They're actually pretty good at keeping international PhD graduates.
Okay.
They even exceed the EU average in that regard. But they're facing a challenge when it comes to attracting those top researchers, especially compared to countries like Denmark, the Netherlands, and Switzerland.
That is surprising. I always thought Sweden was like a really desirable place for researchers. What's causing that?
Well, the proposition digs into some key reasons. And honestly, some of them are pretty straightforward,
Okay.
like streamlined visa processes. Other countries are just making it easier for researchers to relocate and work there. They're cutting through that red tape.
Right. That can be such a pain.
It can be a major headache.
Yeah.
And it's not just about getting a visa. It's about creating a welcoming environment for researchers once they arrive.
Sure.
The proposition emphasizes the need for better support structures. Things like assistance with finding housing, language courses, navigating the Swedish system.
Yeah, all the practical stuff.
All those little things, they can make a huge difference.
Yeah, they really can. It's about making people feel welcome, feeling valued.
Exactly. Like they belong. And that sense of belonging extends to their professional lives as well. The proposition highlights the need to address some concerns that have been raised by international researchers
Okay, like what?
about career paths and professional development opportunities. You know, things like that.
So it's not enough to just attract them. You have to create a system where they can actually build a career.
Right, exactly. Because if talented researchers don't feel like they have a clear path forward or opportunities to grow,
Yeah.
they're going to look for those opportunities elsewhere.
Of course. Makes sense. So what are they actually proposing to do to make Sweden a more attractive destination?
Well, they're outlining a multi-pronged approach.
Mm.
Simplifying visa process is a big one. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
They also propose creating more comprehensive support structures for researchers,
Okay.
like welcome services, mentorship programs, even assistance with childcare.
Wow. Those are some really practical and valuable things.
They are. They show a commitment to making Sweden a more attractive destination. And they're also addressing the financial side of things.
Right, because that matters.
It does matter. They recognize that to attract top talent, you have to offer competitive salaries
Of course.
and clear career paths within academia.
Right. You can't just expect people to come for the love of the game.
Exactly. Talent goes where the opportunities are.
Yeah.
And that includes financial security and recognition.
Yeah, it's a reality check. If Sweden wants to compete on a global stage, they need to be willing to invest in the people who will drive that innovation.
Absolutely. And it seems like they're starting to wake up to that reality. They're taking some proactive steps.
Good. So we've talked about research infrastructure and this global competition for talent. What about the actual areas of research? Where is Sweden focusing its efforts? What does their vision for the future look like?
So the proposition outlines a number of key investments and strategic research areas. They're planning to increase funding for research councils and Vinnova.
Okay.
That's the Swedish innovation agency. This will give scientists more resources to pursue their work.
More funding is always good.
It is. It gives researchers more flexibility. They can explore new ideas, take risks, and that's where the most exciting breakthroughs often happen.
Exactly. Okay, what else? What other areas are they focusing on?
Well, they're also establishing new strategic research areas, including things like quantum technology,
Okay.
polar research, and climate-related research.
Those all sound pretty important.
They are. These are fields that have the potential to really transform our world and address some of the biggest challenges we face.
Quantum technology is a fascinating one. It feels like we're just on the cusp of some major breakthroughs there.
I know. In computing, communication, even just our basic understanding of the universe.
Right. And polar research, that's becoming more and more crucial as climate change accelerates.
It is. Understanding the polar regions is key to understanding the whole global climate system.
And the impacts of warming temperatures.
Exactly. What happens there affects us all.
Right. And of course, there's climate-related research, which is just critical for finding solutions to mitigate climate change and adapt to its impacts.
It's a huge field with a lot of different avenues of research.
Yeah, from developing renewable energy to understanding how climate change is going to affect ecosystems and human societies.
It's a big puzzle.
Yeah. And speaking of human societies, the proposition also emphasizes strengthening research within primary healthcare,
Right. That's an important area.
especially with an aging population and rising healthcare costs.
It is. Investing in primary healthcare research is crucial for developing preventative strategies
Okay.
and finding more cost-effective ways to deliver quality care.
So it's about making sure that healthcare systems are sustainable, accessible for everyone.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the continued commitment to those really impressive research facilities we talked about earlier.
Right. SciLife Lab, Max4, and ESS.
Those represent a huge investment, and the proposition reaffirms their importance for driving innovation and attracting those top researchers from around the world.
So they're like flagships for Sweden,
Yeah.
showing their commitment to research and innovation on a global stage.
Exactly. And in addition to these larger initiatives, the proposition also highlights support for something called test and demonstration environments,
Okay. What's that?
particularly in areas like batteries and electrification.
Okay.
This is all about bridging the gap between research and real-world applications,
Okay.
taking those promising ideas from the lab and turning them into commercially viable solutions.
Right. So many great ideas just never make it out of the lab.
Exactly. And finally, the proposition recognizes the importance of building a pipeline of future innovators. So they want to boost STEM education and attract more students to those fields.
Yeah, that's smart. Invest in the future.
Exactly. It's about creating a workforce that is equipped to tackle the challenges of the 21st century.
So it's a multifaceted approach.
It is.
Investing in research, attracting talent, focusing on key areas, nurturing that next generation of innovators. It seems like Sweden is taking a holistic view
They are.
of what it takes to stay ahead in this global innovation race.
They're setting ambitious goals and they're putting resources behind them.
But is it going to be enough?
That's the million-dollar question. The proposition paints this picture of Sweden at a crossroads.
Yeah.
They're facing stiff competition: China, the the U.S.
Yeah.
And the landscape of research and innovation is changing so rapidly.
It's almost dizzying.
It is.
It feels like they're trying to strike a balance, preserving that commitment to research freedom, academic excellence, but also recognizing they need a more strategic focus and a more competitive mindset in this globalized world.
It's a delicate balance.
It is, and one that many countries are struggling with. Well, I have to say, I'm impressed with the ambition and scope of these plans.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But I'm curious to hear what our listener thinks about all of this. What stands out to you? What are your hopes? Or
First concerns.
about the future of research and innovation in Sweden, or even globally? So we've covered a lot in this deep dive about Sweden.
We have.
Research goals, impressive infrastructure, this global race for talent.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. And we've talked about those challenges of staying ahead in this world that's changing so rapidly.
Yeah, it seems like things are just speeding up.
They really are. But before we wrap up, I want to think about what all of this means for you.
For the listener.
Yeah, for our listeners out there.
Right, because this isn't just some abstract concept.
Exactly. It's not just happening in a bubble somewhere.
This stuff has a real impact on our lives.
It shapes the world around
It's
us.
the future we're all moving towards.
Exactly. Whether it's new medical treatments or finding solutions to the climate crisis or, just tech that enhances our lives.
All that comes from research and innovation.
It does. And what we've seen in this deep dive is that Sweden is really serious about driving that progress.
Yeah, they're not shying away from the competition.
No.
They're going for it.
They're investing, they're fostering a culture of excellence, they're recognizing the importance of collaboration.
It's a good sign.
It is. It's like they're sending a message to the rest of the world
What's that?
that Sweden is a place where innovation happens.
Come join us.
Yeah, come be a part of it.
And that invitation goes beyond researchers.
Right. It's for all of us.
It's a call to action.
It is to really think about how research and innovation are shaping our future.
To engage in the conversation.
Yeah, to contribute.
However we can.
One thing that really stood out to me throughout all this was this emphasis on balance.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Balancing that curiosity-driven research with that targeted funding
Right.
for those societal challenges. Balancing excellence with research freedom.
And balancing national priorities.
With international collaboration.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is. There's no easy answer.
But just the fact that Sweden is trying,
Yeah,
that they're trying to find that sweet spot.
it's encouraging.
It is.
Shows that they're willing to adapt and evolve.
Which is crucial these days.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a question.
Question for the listeners.
What resonated with you the most from our exploration of all this?
What are you excited about?
What are your concerns? What are you thinking about?
We encourage you to keep exploring these topics.
Yeah, dig a little deeper.
Challenge some assumptions.
Share your thoughts.
Because at the end of the day, the future of all of this,
The future of research and innovation,
it's not something that just happens to us.
it's something that we shape.
Through our curiosity,
Our engagement,
our efforts to make a better world.
that's where the power lies.
Not in the labs,
Not in the boardrooms.
but in the minds and the hearts.
Of the people who are passionate about making a difference.
That's what matters.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Swedish research and innovation.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you learned something and that you're feeling inspired.
And maybe a little bit more curious about the possibilities that are out there.
Until next time.